Motorsports Podcast with the owner of Bent Motorsports, David Beckett, and his crew, Jacob Hunsinger, James Hernandez, and Jake Russo. Listen in as the guys discuss all things motorsports, including tech tips and current shop projects.
Actually, there's a lot of space for activities.
Let's start the podcast by talking about that project again.
Yeah.
Okay. The Celica is coming back to life, everybody.
We're finally going to get that thing in the shop and get the 1UZ. I got it right this time, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
You did.
Yeah.
I said it one time. One time I fucked it up, and then everybody, from then on,
I'm
you just
smart.
Yeah, the Uzi motor.
So the 1UZ motor will actually be in the Celica, hopefully, very soon.
Okay, I'm going to give James 15 minutes of fame here. Why did you get the Celica? I'm sure you've talked about this before, but even I want to hear it again. But hold on. You got more than 5 minutes there. Why did you get the Celica? What made you pick the 1UZ? And now, like, where you are from reading and learning and being where you are now, ultimately, what do you want to get out of this car?
Okay, so I got the Celica. I was cruising Craigslist one night and just playing the game. It was the best way to play it though is just to put in a price range.
Oh
and, like
nothing, whatever.
You're like $500. What can we get? And I saw this like dusty looking thing that was all square. It basically looks like the cockpit of an X-wing. And I was like,
true. That's
cool. And I looked it up and I was like, what does an 85 Celica do? And it does rear-wheel drive and it came manual and it does. And then I read into it, and it was a really big Group B rear-wheel drive winner, run the Africa Safari and all this stuff. And I was like, man, this is the most random race pedigreed car I've ever found. It's like front engine, rear-wheel drive layout. Like, it's a slept-on platform, and the guy wanted like 600, so I drove down there, and he sprayed some carb cleaner into it, and it turned over. And I said, hey, I will be down here in 3 hours with a trailer if you sell it to me for 400. And he's like,
motherfucker.
Huh? And then I slapped the money in his hand. He went, okay. And I was like, sick, dude. So then Jake and I went down there and trailered it home with his old F-150.
Hell yeah.
That was pretty sweet.
That was terrible. Traffic was terrible.
It was the hardest. Like
every car we buy is in fucking El Cajon. It's
terrible. God bless El Cajon.
They're either down south or they're in, Ontario, Pomona,
Lancaster,
Ventura.
Yeah, Lancaster,
out in the middle of Palm Springs, and you're like, all right, I'm cool with this.
Were you into rally racing before that car, or no?
I've always been into rally racing.
Okay, but how did you not know about that car then? If you were into rally racing,
because it's actually
it's just so low key.
It was omitted. It's omitted from like a lot of the talk of Group B because it was one of the early rear-wheel drive contenders, and then they all got overshadowed when all-wheel drive came into play, and none of them really could compete with the all-wheel drive cars to a certain degree, except for in the longer endurance races like the Africa segment, because they're more simple. They don't break as easy. This thing had a live rear axle, right? So it's not like breaking A-arms or, has to deal with like a crazy drivetrain setup that, and all-wheel drive just came out and everybody's like pushing twin forced inductions and all this crazy stuff, and they just put like a turbo on it and said, run the thing into the ground. So we bought it, and it was originally just supposed to be like a $500 beater that we could like go take out into the desert and get sideways and do whatever in.
But it was.
And it totally was for a while. It's the most fun car I've ever owned in my life because we had no regard for its well-being. Mm-hmm. We did not care about it at all. And we drove the piss out of it. We just bottomed it out and like blasted berms with it, like put it sideways into walls. Like it just didn't matter. And like the saddest part when I put it sideways into a wall was that there was a dent. And I was like, oh no. And then I realized I was like, oh, this was a $400 car.
Sweet.
So
yeah.
That's why we originally bought it, and then it eventually died because I smashed the oil pan on a rock and then did like figure eights in a parking lot 2 weeks later for like 30 minutes straight. Yeah. Jake and I laughed the whole way home because it just totally blew up and sounded like
rad.
Bag of marbles inside a can. Just it was hilarious. So what I'm expecting to get out of it is we just want like a really low key, burly rally racer, and it could definitely, we're going to try to set it up to be able to do whatever we want in it, kind of like a Swiss Army knife car. But I chose the 1UZ because we don't have to modify it to make power.
Yeah.
The only other option was a Beams 3SGE, which is a dual overhead 2.0 with like, it's high compression. It's got titanium valves. Like, it is a race engine, but it still only makes 210 horsepower. And if you want more than that, you're going to have to mod it, which it's kind of hard to mod. And I didn't want to push more out of an engine than it was originally designed with, because I'm thinking longevity.
Wise choice.
I want something that, like, even if it's not the most powerful or trick or whatever, it's a race car through and through, and every single time you walk out to the garage, you're going to be able to start it up and go and have some fun in it. So that kind of plays into the whole, like, overbuilt, we're just going to, like, put a lot of gusseting, and we're not going to try to pay attention too much to weight or anything, and then like a big beefy rear axle in there, not trying to go
Dana 60.
We're going to put a 1-ton in the rear. It's going to be awesome.
Dually axle too.
Ooh.
And that'll allow us to be able to, again, beat on it, like, not worry if we crash it, not have to be too difficult to find parts for it, just with a big beefy rear axle in there. And sure, like, guys might outgun me and stuff, but that's not what the car's about. Like, again, it was the most fun car I've ever, like, driven in stock form with a truck motor and an automatic transmission.
Let's give it 4 times more horsepower. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's triple the horsepower and put like a stout rear end in there and some really good, like, beefy coilovers, and just, like, if you want to go out and drive a race car, and especially rally on dirt and just get sideways and jump stuff. Like, I remember the first time I unloaded the entire suspension and got airborne in it in stock form, I was like, whoa, that was the coolest thing I've ever done. Like, sideways over just like a little, like, crest into a turn, and the whole thing just went whoop, and you're like, I'm in the air right now. And then you hit the ground, it was like, and you're like, that was some Colin McRae style stuff right there.
I'm a rally driver now.
Now Dave's on me. He's been telling me I need to get it into the shop, and we're gonna seam weld the whole thing, and we're gonna solid mount the whole thing, and it's gonna be good, beefy. We'll have it at the car show for everybody to check out.
June 9th.
Yeah, June 9th. To see what basically what I see is, like, if Japan, if the Japanese had a muscle car mentality mindset like America does, what they could have built, you know, or what they should be building right now, instead of, like, turbocharging, you know, 1JZs and supers and stuff. They're like, let's take a super light old car and put our, like, Japanese V8 in it and, like, just rip it.
And this car will be built not to a rule book, not to try to emulate anything other than the experience of that car.
I think the most fun thing to do with it would be to enter, like, a hill climb event or something.
Yeah, some open,
like,
class.
some stupid
That'd be
open
so sweet.
class. Yeah, and then just rage the thing. Because I've watched, I mean, there's a lot of cool ones out in Colorado and stuff, and these dudes have the craziest cars. They're like, I just saw a build that was like a 36 Plymouth or something that had, like, an LS400 suspension tucked underneath it, and like a Chevy crate motor. And I was just like, what? And he goes, yeah, I'm building it for a hill climb. And, like,
we need to go out there and do
awesome.
it. I have friends in Colorado who better be listening to this podcast.
Oh, they're going to put us up for the weekend? That's right.
Yeah, dude, they'll put us up.
Thanks.
They got a really cool
Thanks, Kay.
garage we can sleep in.
I love sleeping in garages.
Kevin, make them sleep in the garage. Let me sleep in the house.
Fair enough.
Just putting it out there. Thanks.
So
that's soon, Kev.
That's pretty much the dream for that. Segueing into other people's projects.
Oh, how close are we? How close are we?
There's a guy I know who finally started to make an exhaust. His name is Ruski.
That thing is close right now, right?
It is so freaking close.
How many man hours are we away from driving this beast?
If somebody would help me, probably not that many.
He comes over here, no joke, he comes over to our shop no less than a dozen times a day. Hey, guys, what are you doing right now? Nothing? Hey, I need help, just someone to help me bleed the clutch.
Yeah, we're super busy.
Can you just push on the clutch pedal a couple times for me? I'm all by myself over there, and we're like, yeah, we are way slammed. As I'm scrolling through Netflix on the big screen, trying to figure out what episode of Engine Masters we're going to watch next. Can't catch a break.
So
Got him.
this whole last week has been like, I don't know, I've been staying here till like 8 o'clock at night or so.
But you're killing it, and that exhaust, it looks badass. Like,
yeah,
honestly,
I bought all the
I
Mandrel
expected there to be a bunch of like
just
90-degree angles and shit. Not because it's
flow
you,
dynamics
just
are,
because
you know.
of fuck it. But
no,
it looks good, man.
I've been going at it like freaking shout out to my girlfriend for not breaking up with me by now, because every night I come home and I'm like, oh man, that was a rough day, and then I just go straight to bed, and, or like I sit on my computer or my phone and like look up how to do something, because I just literally, it's consumed my life at this point, you know?
Yeah. But you're so close.
Yeah, so close. And so basically this whole last week I bought all the mandrel bent tubing. It was supposed to show up on Wednesday. It showed up on Tuesday, so I kind of got a head start on it. And Beamer Fest is this weekend, like Saturday, and I'm caravanning out at 6:30 in the morning on Saturday. So if it's not done, then I'm not going. And I'm going to be super, super pissed. I'm probably going to end up working on it all day Saturday.
So you're not going? Is that what you're telling me?
I want to go.
Are you going to drive without that wiring harness loomed?
Yeah, probably.
Dude, just zip tie it up, man. It'll be fine.
What's it going to do?
I'm not saying it needs loom. I'm just saying don't open the damn hood.
It's on Saturday?
It's on Saturday.
Dude, let's
Where's
Next
it at?
Saturday?
This Saturday.
Wait, this Saturday?
Yeah.
2 days from now.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Like today is Thursday.
Now I feel kind of bad. Like we should have been helping him all week.
Yeah.
Why do you think I've been busting out this stuff?
Hang on, wait. Nah, I'm over
No, no, so I made the exhaust basically in the last couple of days, and it's all mandrel bent tubing that you have to you buy like the little kits, from Summit Racing or Speedway or Jegs, and then you have to cut everything up, and it's like a little puzzle piece, you start here, and then maybe you have the muffler hanging up on the car with little posts, and you just have everything in place, and you're like, how am I going to get this here to here, and start cutting stuff up, and
it's fun, right? I think early on we were talking about building headers, and I was telling you the same thing. Just buy all the stuff and do it.
You just got to
do it because you start thinking about how am I going to do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just
talk yourself out of it.
Just get the stuff and stand there and go, oh, all I got to do is cut this and weld this and do that.
And you know what? Not to say I don't get creative every now and then, but I haven't gotten that creative in a long time to where I go into my artistic OCD mode, and I just start going at it, and sure enough, a couple hours later, I was like, wow, this thing's actually done. I just have one more thing to do, and that's it, And
so
I was
give us the steps
So
here.
for me, real quick, just for me, are you guys all considered millennials?
Yeah, I guess so.
Right? No?
I don't know.
Yeah,
we're all the same genre, but
I just read that we're Gen Y.
Because I know
I've heard that
I think
too.
they called me Generation X.
You're
You're
a
part
piece
of
of
Gen
shit.
X, which is also my older.
You're just garbage. Generation
sister.
garbage.
Generation garbage.
We're Y2K, right?
Yeah, we're Gen Y. Gen
Yeah.
Y2K.
So here, when he said, all of a sudden to get into my artistic mode, and I get all focused, and then it's like, oh wow, look, I just did this. I'm thinking, that's just fucking regular work ethic that you're supposed to do every goddamn day. What do
you want, an award?
One day you buckled down and actually did something. I'm supposed to be impressed.
He wants an award for doing his job.
You make a difference.
Yay!
Yeah, I feel so attacked right
Hey,
now.
I'm sorry. I'm glad you're doing good. But
in Russo's defense, there is, I feel a certain amount of things on a car that are very
daunting,
engineering centric,
Right.
so to speak. And then, not that an exhaust system isn't, but now you're looking at lines and try to fit it places, and just the fact that you're cutting it, and you have to visualize these curves and the way it's all going to work together. I kind of feel him on that. You do have to get a little bit more creative than.
No, I agree. I'm glad. I'm glad that he tapped into his creative side, and I'm not by any means diminishing the work he did. But I just think the way he presented it
it might have sounded a little
like,
off.
I did it.
Wait a minute, you just do that every day, and it had been done a month ago.
Well, that is actually true.
I didn't have the parts, all right?
I won't defend
Okay.
him since I've been one of the main. I'll roast him every day. How long it took him to just figure out to buy these.
Just so everybody
headers.
knows out
We
there,
will
that's what we do.
see.
Is we roast each other pretty hard here. This is you got a pretty thick skin to work in this shop.
It's
That's
one of
for
those
sure.
things where there's 4 of us, right? So there's always going to be 3 people picking on one. It doesn't matter what time of day, what day of the week, but
It can change
yeah,
it
it
in
could
an
change in
instant.
a heartbeat, but one person is
Right.
always getting pinpointed, and one person is
Hell
just getting
yeah.
beat on.
And it is super fun
It builds character.
when one person is struggling with something, and then the other. If you're struggling with something, if I'm getting frustrated with something on a car and it's not working out, I can be very guaranteed that the 3 of you are going to be standing there laughing at me doing it.
Probably.
Which in all reality helps us all get through the day because then we realize it ain't that big of a deal and you just move on.
It's true. I'm kind of worried to get the Celica in here because I feel like I'm going to get...
You're going to get smoked.
Now I'm going to be like the man. I mean, I'm stuck with
I can't wait. This is going to be so great because now I'm not like I'm actually like driving my car around, you know, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll work on something every now and then, like fix a few things.
How long until you sell the Miata?
Oh, probably not that long. I haven't driven it yet, so I don't really know. You know, if there's going to be some issues with it where I got to keep it around for a little bit, but for the most part, it's probably going to get sold pretty quick.
All right, so give us the steps here.
For doing the exhaust?
Yeah, no, for what else do you have left?
Yeah, because you've got a day, one full day.
One full day and tonight, which I don't know why I'm having a beverage right now, but basically finish welding the exhaust. It's all tacked up right now. I have, I guess you can call it, I'd say a half the exhaust is fully welded, painted, like ready to go in. Wiring is pretty much done.
Just zip tied out of the way. It's not
zip tied out of the way. Yeah, it's not loom, so it's all hooked up though. And then I got to bleed the clutch.
You've actually got to put water in it and make sure that it doesn't
so
leak.
I have a hose. I got to put on for the radiator, and then I'm filling it with coolant and putting the fans on, and it's on the road basically.
Well, now we've got the big hurdle of the clutch bleeding because
which I don't know what the hell is going on with that, but that is like the biggest hurdle right now is getting that thing bled, and I've had an issue with it before, so I'm pretty sure it is the master cylinder for the clutch.
Yeah.
But what was weird was that before I bled it and everything was good, and then it stopped working. Like the last time we tried pumping it, and I was like, whatever. Drove it out of the shop like that. It wasn't the greatest, but all of a sudden, like the pedal came back and everything was fine. So
it burnt
I don't know.
Itself.
Yeah, like I don't know how that worked out.
Well, if you look at that BMW, the master cylinder for the clutch is mounted under the dash, right?
Yeah.
And it's at a wacky angle.
Yeah,
and I don't know
weird.
where the hose feed comes in, but even if it's like close to the top, it could just be
a little bubble right
just
inside
a little
there.
tiny one up in there. That's
Have you tried the vacuum bleeder guy?
I did.
I'm sure some BMW guys listening going, "You idiots!"
Yeah, right.
Did you call the FSM for the E28? I mean, obviously you didn't.
I did.
Yeah, where's the manual that shows you how to bleed
an LS swap BMW from 1983?
That clutch with a GTO slave cylinder.
We should make a mock FSM for LS swapped E28.
Yeah,
I'm about it. I'm super
hilarious.
about it. So I don't know. It's getting down to the wire. All my buddies are texting me, dude. We're caravanning. Like, are you going to be done in time? Are you going to be done in time? I'm like,
okay,
God, there's not enough time the freaking day.
That's what I'm saying. You have all these buddies who are like BMW guys, and they're all, are you going to make it? But nobody's going to come down here and help you
right?
out.
Jacked up.
Killing
and
it.
then I have you guys that are 2 doors down, and nobody still wants to help me. So I don't know. Maybe it's my
it says something about you. Yeah.
Tomorrow, Jake's not going to be here. I'll be in the shop
Thank
alone
God.
with. I don't think I have anything on the books to do tomorrow.
No.
So I could help you all day if you wanted.
But
Don't say maybe. Say yes.
I'll probably,
yes.
since you hesitated, you said maybe you don't want my help, so I'll just take the day off too. Have a 4-day weekend.
What a nice guy.
Yeah, that's super nice. I wouldn't expect
Gracing
anything less.
himself with a free day.
He could be at home watching The
deserves
Office, but instead he wants to come in and help me. But
yeah, I'll help you. I'll help you
right,
tomorrow.
right.
I didn't realize Saturday was the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's been so many deadlines. I can't keep track.
Yeah,
of
but
what
this
the
is
new
like
deadline is.
kind of a realistic one almost. You know.
All right. Well,
so I'm pushing.
You're on your own tonight.
Oh yeah, but tonight I'm just welding up the exhaust. I'll probably go home
but
after
tomorrow
that. You know?
I can help you.
And then wiring up the fans. And then I want to do a big old burnout on that thing because that's what it's called.
That's it?
Because that's what you should do.
Yeah,
Don't
break
shake
it in
down.
nice.
No, do a burnout and then drive to L.A.
So apparently that happened last Beamer Fest or 2 Beamer Fests ago. This company up in Sacramento, they do like a bunch of stuff. They had that cool Land Cruiser that was at SEMA in the front.
What are they called?
CA tuned.
Got it.
And so one of the guys that works there, his own project car is an LS6 swapped E28, just like mine. Mm-hmm. And I guess one of my buddies at Beamer Fest is good buddies with him, and he was like, dude, do a burnout. And so he does a burnout in front of everybody, snaps an axle right in front of the show as he's leaving. So then he had to get another car that was like an actual show car. The thing is like dialed in. Mm-hmm. They had to drive that thing back to Sacramento and put his car on the trailer because it was just snapped an axle.
Hell yeah.
So, respect. At least he did it.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
he did. And my buddy texted me, reminded me that. He goes, dude, remember, like, take it easy until you're like almost home from the show, and then you know, then you
how
can
many
do
miles
stuff.
is it from here?
Less than
to Cal
300.
Speedway.
Yeah,
Cal Speedway is like what, 100 miles maybe?
Dude, that's about as long as a AAA tow.
Yeah, exactly.
Good to go.
So, is it crazy? I haven't really told any of you guys this, but is it crazy that I might drive my car to Vegas this weekend if it works?
No, you have to shake it down, buddy.
Yeah, that's
no
what
better
I'm saying.
than to get stranded in
That's
the
not a good idea.
You're an idiot.
Yeah, I know.
You're going to drive it to Vegas.
Yeah.
After the Beamer Fest?
Yeah. That's asking for a problem, isn't it?
Kinda.
Yeah. All right, maybe we won't
Don't
do
be
that.
a pussy. Do
Yeah,
it.
just do it.
That's I'm not saying that I want to reenact roadkill every day of my life, but that's a total like roadkill thing.
Dude,
Except
speaking
this
of that,
is like
man,
4
do you
months.
guys subscribe to Motor Trend TV?
No, I really want to.
If you
I
don't
make
subscribe
enough
to
money
Motor
do
Trend
that.
TV, you absolutely should, because I got to hand it to those guys, man. They make some really good shows. Their newest, or the show I like that I'm hooked on now, is Engine Masters.
Yeah.
We've watched it a few times
That's
here in
great.
the shop. Dude, they take the coolest, they do, like we go back to everything we've always talked about, right? Get your own data. Collect your own information. You don't believe everything you read or hear everybody say, right?
Yeah, go on the forum and listen to 70 people give like 40 different opinions. It's all
this
bullshit.
is how you do this. This is how you
so
do this.
they got their show Engine Masters, and they're basically debunking every myth forever in the car world. Like,
Which is,
you go to an exhaust shop back in the day when I used to go, and they'd be like, you want to do a 2.5 inch or whatever 2-inch exhaust. Your engine needs a little back pressure on it, right? It's like, what? I always would never figured that out. I'm like, well, yeah, if you're the expert on it, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't understand. Then why does the Top Fuel Dragster have a freaking Zoomy pipe or an open header?
Straight out the
It's like an
side.
engine needs a little back pressure on it,
Yeah.
you know? And so they do it. They put it on a dyno, and they do it up at West Tech, and they basically go through and they dyno it, and they prove everybody wrong or right.
And on those Top Fuel Dragsters, when they have the open pipe on them, it's still, I recall, uncountable horsepower, isn't it? Something like that?
Yeah, off the charts. Like, no machine can measure it.
off the charts horsepower, buddy.
There you go. It's
I
our
want to
next
get
show.
to that point, where you're just on off the charts. Like, what point do you have to get at? Is that like 1,800 horsepower that you have to get to before
No,
it's
these
like
are
kind
like-
of off the chart?
no,
well, I
these-
know those are like 4,000, but like, what is the limit to where?
Oh, then the dyno can't read it anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what
I
is
don't
the
know.
limit to that? Because
That's
I know
the
there was this company not back in the day. This was like 5 years ago, but I'm not old enough to say that yet. It was called AMS, I think. And they did a bunch of Evo tuning, STI tuning,
yeah.
and then the biggest thing was they got into GTRs, and they were like the company that made the fastest GTRs in the world, And they would have these like I think they called it the Alpha X kit, and it was literally a 2,000 horsepower GTR.
Dope.
And
pretty crazy.
That's pretty crazy.
That's all right,
yeah,
I
it was
guess.
pretty insane. And those dudes
over
had
here-
the same thing where they couldn't even chart how much horsepower it was because it wouldn't even do anything on the dyno.
I'm over here pining for like a 250 horsepower,
right?
Is there
like POS.
is there anything that you did on your race car, David, that Engine Masters has debunked, or now you look at it and you're like, damn, I really didn't gain shit out of that, but like back in the day was a rumor or something like that?
I don't know. So things I've done to the Spitfire when we were racing it. We built our own header, and we made the runners as long as we possibly could. So you've seen the car. I got a weed burner on the passenger side, and the headers go out of the head, down, around the firewall, around the inner fender, and then turn down the rocker panel before they collect. So for that engine, super long, right? Because you're supposed to get more torque.
With a long tube
With
and the
the long
shorties
tube.
for horsepower or something like that, right?
So being that it was a parking lot racer, all I cared about was torque, because torque gets you there, horsepower keeps you there, right?
Yeah.
And we were always, if you were to dyno our car, we were always running our car on the torque curve part of it, right? We never even got to where we even needed horsepower. So I haven't seen an Engine Masters where they did the tube lengths on the headers.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have one. I just haven't found it. There's like 3 seasons, and I'm still scrolling through them. But I'd be curious to see if that was legitimate. We also deleted our distributor and went to we made our own crank trigger, and then we bought a system back in the day. It was like a little system that had a coil and
Back in the day. See, David can say it.
Back in
I
the
know,
day,
you
yo.
can't.
Shit.
Half his age, if
then it turned it into an electronic ignition, basically. I think our biggest benefit from that was that we were going to get more spark,
Yeah.
right? Bigger spark and more accurate spark, and then we could change the timing of that spark a lot better so that the tunability was better. But we also thought that, hey, by removing the distributor, there's less drag on rotating parts, right? So the cam's not having to drive a distributor anymore. but it was still driving our oil pump, I guess.
You're done.
So
son.
the oil pump wasn't turning because it just
Now I forgot.
ran great for like 2 seconds. I swear.
I mean, I would be curious. Deleting a distributor from your engine, how many horsepower do you save, or how much torque?
Hey, Motor Trend,
right?
hit us up. We don't have all that money.
I'm sure it's nothing. Like the benefit was definitely going to the bigger spark, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I did. I don't think we did. We followed the rule of reduce the weight as much as we could for our class, and starting with rotating weight.
Yeah.
So lightest wheels we could get, lightest flywheel we could get. Anything that was rotating, we lightened, and then we just built the car. Anything that gave us more torque, that's what we did.
Makes sense.
So I can't think of anything.
Have you watched one of those shows that did anything about like deburring intake manifolds?
Like polishing like the bends on throttle bodies and shit like that?
Yeah, stuff like that, and like cast seams and stuff like that.
There is one that they did a port and polish, right? Matched porting and polishing an engine, and I didn't watch it yet. I saw the little headline for it.
I'd be curious to see that one.
Yeah, I got to watch that one next.
It makes sense as far as what I know about fluid dynamics, which isn't a lot. But
air doesn't like to stop.
When it has to do something hard, it's not good.
Don't like doing that.
Make it smooth.
I like that episode about air filters, and I mean, given these are all old school. It's on a carbureted motor, so I don't know the rest of it, but I like when people's myths are debunked. That these people who have been thinking for 40 years, nope, like. The K&N with the top intake and the side intake filter, that's the one. Yeah. And then they go and do that. And I think the test actually showed that they blocked off the sides. That it was the K&N, the top filter, and they blocked all the side filter out, and only the top was exposed. Made more horsepower than having both areas done. But the best one was still the velocity stack. Sand straight into the motor.
Yeah, because it's like the exhaust one. There was one on the exhaust, and they were talking about 2.5 inch versus 3 inch, and they even did a H pipe versus no H pipe versus an X pipe.
What'd you put in your LS?
X pipe.
Nice. X pipe, baby.
Yeah.
So they basically going through all those things. Yes, the bigger diameter exhaust you have, the better your horsepower is going to be because you're getting that exhaust out.
Because it breathes more.
So if you they usually run on the dynos, they're running open headers.
Yeah.
Because they're going to get all their real, raw, good numbers with just open headers.
But if they run on the dyno with open headers, why wouldn't you race with open headers?
Well, in some classes you do race with open headers.
Interesting. Okay.
But the guy at the exhaust shop is going to tell me
he's selling exhaust systems.
Pressure.
Absolutely. So basically, they did the H pipe versus, so they did the two separate exhausts, one on each bank, and then they did an H pipe, and then they did an X pipe, and there was basically no change in anything other than the sound.
Yeah.
And they all liked the X pipe sound the best.
I think we all know the best option is hater pipe straight out of the hood.
Hater pipes
right out of it. Right. out of the hood.
With the flapper.
California legal.
Or right through the fenders.
The side of the fender. Yeah.
What's cool about the Engine Masters thing is that those dudes basically, like, I've been reading for years, when Hot Rod Magazine.
Many years?
Couple.
When did you first learn?
For years.
Okay,
Way back when.
I first learned that I had more interesting cars in school when I was at my buddy's house. We were working on something for a project, and I had a magazine, Hot Rod Magazine in front of me, and I knew more about that than I did about whatever we were working on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
so that was like my turning point where I was like, oh yeah, this thing's sick.
I should drop out.
Yeah, I should drop out.
I did drop
I'm still
out.
in high school living at my parents' house, so I can't really do that just yet, But no,
you can.
Like when you read those Hot Rod Magazine books, basically they would still do the comparative things, and there's articles online, everything where they would test like different intake manifolds. So basically they've just done that, but they've put it into a video, which obviously the new thing is going on YouTube, and you could be a mechanic at that, just by watching YouTube videos. So it's cool to see that they've made a series, and it's actually really intriguing to see like actual put to the test things. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think it's just the new age of like the old, Super Chevy write-ups or Hot Rod Magazine write-ups online is just, let's make a video about it.
Well, that's all Motor Trend is. It's the same guys who make all the magazines are now transitioning into,
which is
TV
great
shows.
because they know they speak very eloquently. They're super smart. They know what they're talking about. Like,
they've been doing it a long time.
These are some of the best riders, in the not in the industry, obviously, but these are some really good qualified riders. And
why do you guys think Top Gear was so good? All of those guys are motor journalists.
Yeah, exactly. And they know how. I mean, the cool thing about Top Gear, those dudes know how to drive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even May. I mean, they call him Captain Slow. They tease him up a bit, but I mean, that dude knows how to drive.
Oh, totally.
I'd be curious to watch them do like an autocross or something and see which one of them does
I'm
what.
Sure you can go find.
I'd beat him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably would, David.
David Beckett,
because he's got a champion's mindset. You hear that, everybody? That's a champion's mindset.
That's right.
Best.
If you ain't first,
what did I tell you last night? I was like, yeah, I sent Dave pictures of the exhaust, like, after I got it all tacked up. I was like, what do you think about this? He goes, looks pretty loud. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to harness my inner Ricky Bobby and Days of Thunder.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's personal projects. About around. Oh, no, we have David's on the lift right now.
My LJ's on the rack right now getting ready for its Mishimoto upgrade.
Mishimoto!
Yes.
Every time.
Every
fucking time.
They're a Japanese company. What do you want me to do?
So, yeah, we're excited to do that.
They're made in British Columbia.
I was just about to say, wait a minute. I think they're... Hey, Mishimoto, eh?
Aren't they made? They're actually made in British Columbia, I believe.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They got a 100% lifetime guarantee. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the Jeep up on the lift. We're scoping out where we're going to put the tranny cooler.
Those trannies get hot.
You don't want to have a hot tranny or a leaky tranny.
No.
On your hands. No, sir.
Negative.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get that out of there.
The tranny gets the pink milkshake.
It's terrible when it happens.
It's radiator fluid and tranny fluid, all right?
We scoped it out, and we think we got a spot for it. Just got to make a little bracket and then a little protection plate for it. And then we'll do a video on the whole thing for the install of that and the install of the new radiator with electric fan, which eliminates my
clutch fan
version, which Engine Masters did a show on that. And I cannot remember the results.
It was perfect. Pretty reasonable. Pretty reasonable.
When you delete your fan, whether it's a flex fan or a stock fan or a clutch fan.
Wasn't the flex fan the worst?
The flex fan?
Yeah, it was.
The stock rigid steel fan that would come on like a GM truck or something.
Yeah.
Those were by far the worst. And then the flex fan was pretty bad. The plastic flex fan they used was real bad because it had a real sharp angle on it.
Yeah.
And didn't flex very much. But either way, the fan clutch, like most cars have, helps out a lot. But when you delete it completely, it's a significant improvement.
Wow. I like hearing that.
And you have to remember, too, like the only thing that show doesn't do, which I wish they would do, I guess they leave it to us to figure out, is they're testing these big blocks or small block engines that have 500, 600, 700 horsepower. And then they're measuring, hey, we got another 20 horsepower out of this. Well, what percentage is that increase? Like my Jeep is not going to get 20 horsepower by taking the fan off.
Yeah.
Because it's a percentage of increase, right? So I may get like 2 horsepower. Or
I've
5,
always,
I don't know.
I mean, just speaking of how motors are built and their reactions to certain things, I've always been intrigued by motors like the beams that I was talking about earlier. A 2.0 that makes 210 horsepower, like you're making an equal amount of horsepower to displacement, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at it going, how did they do that? Because it's just so rare that you find something that, and then you like cruise over to like the 1UZ V8 that I have, and it's a 4.0 and it makes 250 horsepower, 260 foot-pounds, right? But
is that wheel or is that crank?
I think it's wheel.
Because 1990s. Because 1990s.
That's what I want to say, right? But
I would assume.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to look it up. But it also has a lightened flywheel that we're putting on there, which is really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Speed holes.
Plus,
it looks sick.
Yeah,
rotating weight.
And I like saying speed holes
because somebody's gonna see it at some point in time.
I know it's in there, so it's gonna make me feel better. But
that's right.
Go to a car show. What's your favorite thing on this car? The speed holes.
The speed holes, baby.
Idiot.
Duh. But you look at it, and it's basically the same design minus like titanium valves as a 3S GE. Only it's in a V8 layout, and you're like, well, why aren't I making 400 horsepower then.
Yeah, why isn't my 8-liter Suburban making 800 horsepower?
These are questions I want to know. Yeah. Okay, but they are now. As far as like diesel motors go, diesel motors are making.
That's because they do what they want.
You can get the power out of it.
Twalk.
Remember, car manufacturers don't make engines for power; they make them for fuel
efficiency. It's all about how
now.
long you want to get the power.
Stupid.
Because they've got to meet all these requirements if they want to sell shit in the United States. It's up to us to modify them.
Again, right?
Let's modify them.
Let's modify them.
Here's a question to
Suburban.
you,
Let's do it.
To everybody, really. What do you think is better? Like, new cars nowadays, I feel are a lot more efficient, but do they necessarily last longer? So,
Yes.
like, my old BMW motor, that thing was clunky. It did not do good on gas mileage, but damn, that thing will get to 300K no problem. You know what I mean? So,
have you ever seen an 18-year-old LS or a 30-year-old LS?
they're all over the place.
30 years old?
No, not 30 years old, but I mean, they
How
came
old
out
was
in
your
98.
BMW motor?
That motor originated in the early 70s and carried all the way into the 90s. So they used it for a lot of years.
Everything is better now.
But
Oil technology is better now. Tolerances that they're building the engines are better. Why do you think a standard oil is a 5W30?
Yeah.
It's because the bearing tolerances are so good that you have to use a super thin synthetic oil to get in there to even lubricate it.
Yeah.
Like, everything is better.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, you know, the 22RE, that's like the godsend of lasting forever. You know what I mean?
They literally stopped making it because it was so good.
So that's what I'm saying. You think new motors that are coming out in like your Civics or your whatever are going to be that good in that many years?
Right now, we're talking to a certain degree planned obsolescence.
So, okay, talking of that.
Wow.
So think
I've
of
been
this.
reading smart people
obsolescence, you fucks.
So think of that. What
I've
he
never
just
even
said,
heard
right?
that word.
What he just said.
No.
So
Plebeians.
Say Kia's making the Forte, right?
Yeah.
Like I asked
And
to pick
do you
his wife's
think
car.
Kia, we have the technology to make that engine last 500,000 miles,
Yeah.
right? But they don't want that engine to last 500,000 miles. You want that engine to last a couple 100,000 miles, right? And then they don't want you to be able to repair that engine or go through that. It's a throwaway car at that point.
Yeah.
You drive it for this many miles and then you recycle it.
You buy a new one.
So unlike engines in the past, which were built with some certain amount of
Longitude.
Longevity.
rebuildable, right? Like they made it so that you could bore it out 3 different times. Like you make an engine and you go 75, 80,000 miles, and then you would bore it 10,000ths and put it all back together again and freshen up the valves and go another 80,000 miles. And you do that 3 or 4 times before the engine is at the point where it's not buildable.
Yeah.
Well, modern engines are built better, but they're built to go that whole distance, that whole exact same span in one shot with never being rebuilt and then just thrown away and then get another one.
That's true.
Okay, so could somebody right now with technology that we have right now make a 1,000,000-mile car that would
Easy.
just go 1,000,000 miles? Yeah.
6PT.
1UZ.
Oh.
It's both recorded over 1 million miles, and the next gen, the 2UZ, was also recorded at a 1 million mile truck. So that's 2 instances of a UZ motor going over 1 million miles. And of course, yeah, there's 6BTs out there that have been over 1 million miles recorded.
Toyota and Cummins, man.
Dude.
So, yeah, I think that, the technology is what makes the engines and everything better. You get more power out of them.
Yeah. That makes sense. I just wanted to throw a little wrench in the situation.
What do you think about, cars now, overhead cams, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a longevity
Flat
thing.
tappet cams? Yeah, they're a thing of the future.
Get rid of those push rods.
Yeah.
The 1UZ was one of the first motors to incorporate dual overhead cams onto a V8 without being, a supercar, which is very interesting. But what they had to do was they had to narrow up the profiles a lot, which is what you run into making power out of that motor. Now, it didn't really matter because they were going for efficiency to a certain degree and not necessarily power.
Right.
So one of the big things is trying to get that engine to breathe properly. You run into issues with the narrow the narrow valve profiles. they're trying to, make enough room to fit him in there. And I don't even know why, because the LS and the SC that they put him into had a massive engine bay. But it makes it actually quite good for trying to shove it into smaller cars, because
such as a Celica.
Such as an 85 Celica. But now, dual overhead cams are all over the place. And, you think that's pretty cool and it makes him breathe better, and that's pretty awesome. But at the same time, you have to buy so many cams when you want to recam it.
It becomes an issue.
So many cams.
Instead of one, you have 4. It just doesn't work.
Gosh, dang it. I don't know. I talked to younger men who are looking to buy their first cars, and they're into cars as we all intrinsically are to a certain degree. And they're asking what they should get, or they're telling me what they have and stuff. And I tell them exactly what I was told, which is either buy a beater that you're not going to do anything to first, and then go and get a small motorcycle or something, and then learn how to work on that. But then from that, you don't want to tell them to get something that's super complicated. Like, I would not tell them to buy
a VF1000.
Oh, no. I'm talking about the CB.
Okay.
The way that I learned was on
No, I was going to say, it's old, it's not complicated.
That was actually the most complicated.
It's complicated as shit.
That was the first super bike that Honda ever made back in the early 80s, was a VF1000F, and it was a V4, and the carbs were basically a zigzag, like a convoluted zigzag of linkages.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's horrendous. So
you still have the motor, right?
Yeah, I still have the motor. It's totally rusted out. Like, the spark plugs are out of it, and I'm 100% certain that water has gotten into the cylinders. It's completely seized up in a piece of trash.
We'll re-sleeve it. It's fine.
It's going to be great. But I tell them, get something that you can work on and that you might be able to make easy power out of, like an older 5.0 Ford, or most of the Toyota engines you're working with you need to turbocharge them or something. I feel like that's why some of the Hondas are really popular, because you got a B18 block B20 head. You're like, got the VTEC. Yeah, so even though newer cars are more reliable, I feel like to a certain degree, out of the box and for the 250,000 miles that you're supposed to drive them, I definitely think that some of the older cars, as far as being a car guy, are what you want to shoot for.
Yeah, when I was younger, the car guys were buying Volkswagen Bugs, because you could take a Volkswagen engine out with a buddy and a skateboard, and you could do all sorts of dumb things to it and put it back in. They were the most simple tinker toy car you could buy. You could have one cylinder go out and spend like $30 and fix just the one piston.
Yeah.
And be back out on the road. Those are really good for, first. Me not being a Volkswagen guy, I would recommend.
You don't like them?
I'm not a fan of.
Don't like them?
I have a lot of opinions on cars, and most of my opinions on cars are because I've been working on cars my whole life.
Do you like Fords?
This week?
Yeah.
Not at all.
Why not?
Not a fan.
Yeah, what about the last week?
No.
It's not a Ford.
I've had Fords, though. I've had them. I've owned Fords. I've owned everything. I own a Ford right now.
You do?
That he does.
Doesn't mean I have to like it.
You love that truck.
I do love that truck.
I mean, I should have listened to David when he was talking mad smack on German cars before I picked up my auction car.
But you listened to me instead, and you're like, dude, I'm looking at this E36. It's going to be sick. Like, what do you think? And I was like, yeah, dude, seems legit. Like, go ahead.
You're a piece of shit.
Okay.
It just sucks when I'm like, I watch, like Jake flip 3 cars in the times it's taken me to actually buy 2? How do I have 2 E36s sitting out in front of my house right now? I look at them all the time and I'm like, man, you are a bad decision maker. But
we've all been there.
It kind of sucks though, because the straight 6 in there is actually relatively bulletproof, despite what people may say. It's everything around that. It's pretty much the entirety that surrounds that motor that is the issue. So it's kind of a bummer when you're like, man, you'd be so great if everything around you didn't suck.
And you guys know I don't like German cars. And it's not that I don't like German cars. I said I don't like working on German cars.
But this guy likes British cars. How stupid is that?
Wait a minute.
Something wrong there.
Wait a minute.
Roasted.
Okay, I can explain. Give me a second to explain.
Oh, here we go. Let's see what you've made
Hear
logical.
me out. Fixing a British car is cheap and easy.
Yeah.
Fixing a German car is a pain in the ass and expensive.
That's true, but you have to look at like frequency. How often do you have to fix your damn British car?
Every weekend.
Every weekend. I don't know. Working on that Land Rover, I was so stoked. I was like, dude, the Discoveries, like no, we didn't fix that, but I was all stoked on Discoveries. They're super cheap. They're really cool. You can make them pretty badass for off road. Then we go to work on this Defender up there, and like what British Leyland, they do all the electrical shit. Or no, who does Lucas? You thought the electrical of like any other car you've ever done was terrible? Well, you work on a British car's electrical systems. It is shit.
It's rad because you'll get a British car, right? And you'll start working on it, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I get it. It's from England. They're not going to do like we do over here where red is hot and black is ground, right?
Yeah.
So you're thinking, okay, so you'll check some stuff. Oh, okay, good. Okay, good. Brown is ground on this car. Perfect. And then you'll test something else. You'll, oh, well, okay. Brown is hot on this side of the car, but on this side of the car, it's ground. And then there'll only be like 3 colors of wire. They're like brown, green, and yellow. All right. The whole thing is put together with trailer wire.
Sweet.
That's why we all left that country and said the only colors are red, white, and blue.
And molded bullet connectors.
Oh yeah, let's okay. You work on your LS and you got this badass like AC Delco 19-pin connector and it works all well. Well, just take some clay and smash a bunch of bullet connectors in like one piece
and let it harden.
Boom. There you go.
And that's what it is.
Nailed it.
That's it.
That's
but see,
cool.
when you have a car, right, and you want to tinker on a car, right? So with a British car, that's what you do. You have to be a tinkerer. You have to be willing to sit at home on Saturday and tinker with it to get it running right so that Sunday you can go for a drive. So it's kind of part of the deal, right? But it's super easy. It doesn't take a lot of know-how or anything to do that. You can't tinker on a BMW on a Saturday and expect to drive it Sunday.
I enjoy that not analogy.
In the 60s and 70s.
I enjoy that notion because I actually am someone who does enjoy fixing something and then taking it out and using it. The problem with the German cars is that it's way too much.
It's too much.
Yeah, like
you get to the point where you're not tinkering anymore.
It's so involved.
You're trying to reverse engineer whatever German guy over-engineered, and then you just can't get it done. And hats off to them, though, as far as they definitely, BMW specifically, has set the pace for cars to follow. Their engineering, their, everything they've done is set kind of the model for everybody else to follow, which is an amazing car, right? But if you're going to have a German car, you, one, need to have a really good mechanic that you can afford so that all you got to do is go, it doesn't work, he's fixing it, and I'll pick it up next week.
That'd be sweet. That would be super sweet.
You know what I mean?
No, yeah. I mean, every time I do fix the BMW and I start to drive it again, the only reason I'm not driving it right now is because of the whole smog thing, which kind of sucks. And that's actually
Thanks, California.
I was going to say, yay. Perfect.
I didn't know we were in sync on that one.
No, I was about to say it's not the Germans' fault. It's the Californians' fault. I would be driving that car right now, even with the ticky valve and the blown out top hats, because even with those things, it is a blast to drive.
Yeah.
It is so much fun to drive. They made that thing with just a really linear torque curve, and it pulls all the way through third. And then even in fourth on the freeway, I hit it, and
it's got some pep, and
you're
going.
I feel like I can snake people all over the road in that car, and it handles well. It grabs the road, and that's like, we're talking 95, 96. This is a 20-plus-year-old car at this point, and
you're still cruising it.
And I feel like, it'd be better than any FRS today. It'd be better than lots of... And that's the other thing. In the past, I feel like, 10 years, not a lot of companies have been coming out with really, like, cars that I'm excited about at all. Like, I think Mustangs and Camaros are boring at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They're not if you're at a car show.
They're not if you're at it. I mean the new ones.
Yeah. No, we mean, yeah.
Yeah, they're not if you're at a car show.
When you're at a car show, they're sick.
You got to be on your toes at all times. They're exciting, trust me.
Spicy. Like the FRS was the last thing to come out that was notable as far as the Japanese or Koreans go.
And at that, I think that's like, for us, that's an achievable thing to where, like, if we really wanted to, like, we could sell all our dilapidated pieces of crap and, like, actually buy one of those, you know? And, like, that's the thing I look at is, like, an affordable car, you know? Is, like, if I really wanted to have, like, a new car and everything, like, that's probably the way I would go because nothing else on the market is, like, actually fun to drive at that point. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go out and sell all my cars and go buy a Civic because it's, you know, economical. Like, we're all car guys. You want to have something fun. You don't want to sit and just sit in a car and drive it. You want to have fun in it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that was a big step for a company to come out and say, we're building a fun car. Everybody, for the most part, can afford it. It's probably a couple $100 a month. You know, insurance is fairly cheap. And here you go. This is what we made. And all of a sudden you have the FRS and it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, we could do something with that.
Yeah, and they did a joint thing with Subaru, so then you got the Subaru thing going on.
I really enjoyed driving cars where when you got to where you were going, you were beat. You know what I mean? Like, you smelled like gas. You were probably sunburnt a little bit. You know, your knees hurt. Like the whole time, you couldn't listen to a radio or anything on the way because there's just too much shit going on. Now you're coming up to a hill and your master cylinder's got a little bit of a leak in it, so you're like pumping the brakes, trying not to roll back the guy behind you. You know, I mean,
that's how my Toyota was.
You know, I mean, it's kind of like, I know the gamblers, we do a lot with the gambler guys, and the gamble is like, are you going to make it? But I almost like the experience of driving a car that takes a little bit of effort, you know?
I agree. I feel like I've said this about soundproofing in cars. I feel like there's lots of kids today who've grown up driving nice cars their whole life, and they don't actually understand how to drive a car because they don't actually understand what is going on.
Yeah, what the noises mean.
Because they're inside this insulated box, they have no idea how fast they're going. They have no idea how much the car weighs. And like when I was driving my 81 Toyota around, you're going like 45. It was so much fun because you felt like you were going like 60. You're just like, it's super loud. Everything's rattling. It's just like, it's all rough and getting bumped around the bench seat. And you're like, okay. And you're like, all right, let's downshift into second for this grade. And it's just like, and you're like, oh, wow, this is nuts.
That's every day driving the Miata, honestly.
Oh, dude, that thing is such a freaking tin can.
It is. It's so bad. I'm like driving down the freeway, and I've noticed it a lot. I think it's the tires are really bad, and that car's kind of like snappy. You know, Miata's like pretty good suspension setup, and so I was getting onto the freeway the other day, and those like the painted white lines, and I literally was not trying to take the corner fast at all. It was a little damp out, and all of a sudden I'm like pitched full 180, and I was like full lock trying to recover it, and I was like, oh man, this is crazy. Like,
nice.
Like this is living right here, you know. Like we're going for
fun.
it.
Yeah.
That
I like the
fun.
experience, the driving experience.
No, I like that. I felt beat every time I drove the Toyota.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what to do if I had a quiet car, honestly.
Your M3 was pretty quiet.
That
No, I
was
fall asleep
okay,
in
and
it.
I sold it. You know,
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, dude, like my Jeep, driving in my Jeep, that thing is loud as hell.
It's
You know, driving my Spitfire, yeah, loud as hell. It's got a rag top, the Jeep, so it's noisy. My Spitfire's noisy.
Yeah.
My truck is quiet, but I mean, but no, it's not quiet. It rattles.
Yeah.
God,
you got
that thing's
that
got so much
sweet
broken plastic
exhaust
in it.
tick.
You let me drive it all the way up to Riverside or wherever. to
Yeah, it's a
grab-
little rattly,
It
right?
wasn't
The
that
doors.
bad.
Yeah, I drove it to Anaheim.
It's
It was
not
pretty.
bad.
It was pretty.
But, like
cush.
I get my wife's Kia to drive to LA with the family, you know, for some family function or something. It's like I'm gonna fall asleep in this thing.
Yeah.
I might as well be at the day spa, you know, getting my nails done.
I noticed that the other day, especially since I've been driving the Miata, where like the soft top has cuts and holes in it, and you hear everything, you know. And I get into Stacy's car, and I was like, oh man, like
This is
weird.
so
Like,
posh.
what is it?
I know, it makes
and it
you
was
really
so
appreciate
quiet
it.
too. And we were driving home, and this was like, I think this was her graduation weekend, so she was sleeping already in the car, and I was like, where am I? What kind of world is this?
Well,
you
I'm so
know?
used to driving without a radio on because you turn the radio on in the Jeep, you're never going to hear it. So why turn it on at all, right? Spitfire doesn't even have a radio. The truck has a radio, but I rarely have it on. And so I'll get in the car with Shelly and drive somewhere, and she's like, "You want to listen to music?" Well, we'll have gone like 20 miles, and it's just dead silent, right? I'm like, "Oh yeah, we can turn on the radio." and, like, hear stuff.
There's radios. That's
Right.
neat. Yeah, sure, babe. Why not?
Yeah, let's listen to music.
I like it. Yeah, but at the same time, sometimes just like, especially if your car sounds nice, Just keep everything off and listen to that thing.
Yeah, listen to that thing hum.
I'm about that.
Well, everybody come to the car show June 9th. Check out James's 1UZ.
And check out the driving.
5
Series
BMW with an LS in it.
We're doing it, guys. We're doing it.
I can honestly say I've checked out all the other E28 LS swaps through like, Russo showing me them, and not just because he's my friend, because I think he's kind of a jackweed, but
hell yeah.
It's super clean. It's one of the cleanest ones out there, if not the cleanest.
He's doing a good job. He's taking his time making it right.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. Now, if you guys would help me, that'd be a whole
we got you.
Yeah, super busy this week.
Yeah,
we're slammed.
It's Memorial Day weekend, dude. I got stuff to do.
Yeah, lip service is all I got for you.
I think we got some pretty good potential as far as projects go around here. Obviously the Jeep's already up and running, but like James's car, I'm really excited to start going at that thing. Kind of take my eyes off of BMW for once in my life. That'd be nice. Maybe I'll have a life and I won't think about your car when it's in the project, Like I think about mine constantly, which is really an issue. So like maybe once it's done, I could focus on something else. It'd be great.
Well, I just wanted to get there so we can beat the crap out of it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have no love or respect for the cars that I build and or drive, and that's what makes them so fun.
It's going to make me want to put a V8 in my Spitfire.
I mean, you have one right now. Technically, you own more of that 1UZ than me.
You could always put a,
Maybe
turbocharged 2.3 liter Pinto motor in it.
Nah.
Gay.
Not going to do it.
Fuck you.
I will end up putting a Rover V8 in.
Fuck you guys. I hope you drop a sleeve.
Dick.
On that note, we're out.
Peace.
This has been the Bent Motorsports Podcast. Thanks for listening in. Be sure to give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at Bent Motorsports. Stay updated on the latest happenings, future projects, videos, and events here at the shop. Remember, guys, at Bent Motorsports, bids in stock, we've got it.